the Titans have signed DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year deal that seems pretty damn low. 2-year deal with, according to Rappaport, 12 million in the first season, up to 3 million in incentives. And this is a guy who's 31 years old who missed the first 6 games of last year by because of a suspension for cheating with performance enhancing drugs. To be honest with you, I don't really have a ton of sympathy for when that happens. I don't like cheating, and that's all I'll say about it because I support the players in basically every other situation. But this is also a part of the whole that you hear about DeAndre Hopkins, that he doesn't like to practice, and he's not the hardest like grinder. And I don't love the idea that he tried to take a shortcut by taking performance enhancing drugs. I don't know, dude. You're like one of the top paid receiver. He was one of the top paid receivers in football. Maybe just like show up for your teammates. But that's probably why his salary is a little bit lower than expected for the Tennessee Titans. And it's not like he's taking a cheap deal to play for the Chiefs or the Bills or the Bengals or something, or the 49ers, teams that are supposedly, or the Eagles, like in the Super Bowl window, right? He's going to a team that is not in the best shape, but they're just desperate. So that's what's shocking to me, is that this number is so low. I guess it's not shocking given what I just said, what his reputation is around the NFL, frankly.
It's a weird deal.
And the fact that the Titans did it, and then like
it makes me it makes me very curious about what the calculations of other contending teams, and even teams that aren't like, capital C contenders, like not just like the Chiefs and the Bills and the teams of that nature, but I mean like why the Lions didn't get this done, why the Panthers didn't get this done. Like, I'm just curious. Like, the Titans have an aging Ryan Tannehill and the rookie Will Levis as their quarterback options. Besides Peter Skoronski, who again is a rookie, will be a rookie, have probably the worst offensive line in the league, and other than now DeAndre Hopkins, also maybe the worst group of pass catchers in the entire league.
100. I mean, that's why they were desperate to do this.
Right. I mean,
even though this deal is pretty cheap. It's pretty cheap for what you would expect DeAndre Hopkins to get, but if the Titans honestly were a little bit more honest about where they are as a football team, I don't think they would have done this deal. And that's why I'm just a little surprised too, because I thought the era of bad deals was kind of over once John Robinson left and Rand Cawthorn came in as the general manager. Part of the reason they're in this goddamn situation is because John Robinson made a series of horrific decisions as GM, including trading A.J. Brown away for nothing.
Which I think essentially, like, basically got him fired.
As
it should have, given what happened to the Eagles after they traded for A.J. Brown.
A.J. Brown, they hadn't had a receiver get 1,200 yards since Drew Bennett in 2004. A.J. Brown gets it, and then they trade him away for 1 first-round pick to the Eagles, who then go to the Super Bowl with him. And they
pick Traylon Burks, who is like a real, like almost like diet version of A.J. Brown.
And,
who, of course, he's very young.
He becomes A.J.
Exactly.
Brown,
That's
you
the hope.
had
Right.
A.J. Brown. And it seemed like a cheap move from the team, or like
totally.
just a way too galaxy brain move by John Robinson. Then he also, I mean, like let us not forget, they signed Julio Jones, and that was the biggest disaster ever.
It just did not work.
Traded
it just
for
totally
him.
Flopped.
They traded a 2nd-round pick to the Atlanta Falcons, which was like the Falcons clearly won that trade. He was, one of the greatest receivers in the history of football, Julio Jones. Let's get it straight here. I mean, Julio Jones is a legend. One of the only football players I've seen in the wild. I saw him in person in Las Vegas when I was there for work at TYT. And when you see someone like an athlete like that in person, just standing in street clothes, you realize, they are just like totally built different than the rest of us. But that's a bit beside the point. I'm a huge Julio Jones fan. It was sad that he couldn't perform at that point, but those were some terrible moves. And this doesn't make the Titans a contender. It maybe means they're more competitive in a division that is fairly wide open, because the Jaguars are clearly on the upswing, but like, They also have a PED suspension on their offensive line, and who knows where like what the state of their line is. And I think that they're the favorites to win the division, but anything can happen. It just seems like a move from a team that doesn't know which direction to go, whether to move on and restart or whether to go further all in. And I feel like they should probably err on the side of restarting.
Hopkins' game lends itself, even as he's getting into the other side of 30, which is like always kind of a warning sign for wide receivers in the NFL. His game sort of lends itself to a more durable wide receiver as they age, in the sense that he's not like a burner. He's not an over the middle guy who always will get smoked by linebackers or things like that. He's kind of a finesse guy and a deep threat guy. I think he's still going to be excellent as a individual player, but
He can route run, yeah.
But at the same time, this is not enough to paper over all of the shortcomings and all of the gaps that the Titans are going to need to fill on this team, despite what I think will still be a very good defense and a very well-coached team, because Mike Vrabel doesn't really coach down anybody.
No.
So, still, with all that being said, I do genuinely think there is a universe where this is one of the worst teams in the league, even with Hopkins, honestly.
100%.
I don't think Hopkins is enough to cover for how bad that offensive line is going to be. Skoronski's a great player, but he's never played an NFL game before, and he's going to be learning to adjust to NFL game speed and the ins and outs of an NFL schedule. The other wide receivers are Treylon Burks, who's a second-year guy who is not fully developed yet. I still think there's a lot of room for him to grow or to actually figure out how to play the position. And then Nick Westbrook-Akine and do I know a third one? Do I have a third one?
I don't know.
Khalif Raymond, is he still on the Titans?
You'll need to tell me, because I know that DeAndre Hopkins, he missed 6 games for PEDs.
No, he's on the line. He's on the lines. He's actually
okay.
Not. He's not even on the Titans.
He missed 6 games for PEDs and 2 for another injury towards the end of the year when the Cardinals were horrible and he was probably just sitting out. And he still had more receiving yards than any receiver on the Titans. So
that is insane.
They desperately need they need the receiving room to not be as horrific as it is. So now I guess it's just the Texans who have the worst receiving room in football at this point, but
so
Titans were definitely at the bottom before this.
And that's why I find it so baffling that the numbers out of it seem to be way lower than I anticipated. The teams who seem to be interested were, I guess, not nearly as interested as they thought they were. And for someone who obviously, as we just said about his age, is on the other side of 30, hasn't really been able to have the luxury of playing on a playoff contender, I would sort of think that that's what would have been sort of the prime motivator in terms of where he'd go next, and to end up on the Titans, a team that for both me and you, and I think a lot of people observing them seems to be a real head scratcher in terms of what they're actually trying to do over there.
Well, he was also, it was apparently a bidding war with the Patriots, another team that is in a bit of limbo, I would say.
Totally.
But so he clearly didn't care about winning a Super Bowl. He wants the money.
But
these numbers are very low, so that's what's odd.
I think if it was only about potential playoff success or getting to as close as you can to a Super Bowl, he wouldn't have even been considering the Patriots or the Titans.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll maybe learn a little bit more as this continues to play out, but it's just interesting, and I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, Julio was literally what I thought of immediately, because I was like, this spending capital, or even whether it's via trade capital or just money on a aging, Pro Bowl All-Pro receiver has not worked for them in the past. So I guess we'll see if it works again.
Lest we forget the Randy Moss signing. He was there for at the very, very end of his career. I don't even think he played a snap for them.
So actually, for the third time, then.
Yes.
Randy, Julio,
yes,
and D-Hop. That's nuts.
Yeah, totally nuts.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yes, exactly.